A U.S. military strike reportedly killed a leader of the Tren de Aragua, a notorious Venezuelan criminal organization. This event marks a dramatic shift in U.S. policy towards transnational criminal networks, raising significant questions about international law and security. Looking ahead, several scenarios could unfold following the recent military strike. First, the U.S. may release operational details about the strike, which could clarify its legal basis and the identity of the deceased leader, a figure known for orchestrating transnational crime. This transparency is crucial for assessing the legality and legitimacy of the action, especially within the framework of international law that governs military intervention. The U.S. has often faced scrutiny over unilateral actions, and this incident could reignite debates about sovereignty and the rules of engagement. Secondly, there may be significant diplomatic repercussions if the strike occurred without the consent of the host country, potentially straining relations in an already volatile region. Such a scenario could hinder future cooperation on intelligence sharing and counterterrorism efforts. Additionally, the risk of retaliation is considerable. High-profile killings often lead to internal power struggles within criminal organizations, which can result in increased violence on the streets. Observers should remain vigilant for the potential for retaliatory attacks against U.S. interests or allies in the region, which could escalate tensions further. The evolving narrative surrounding this incident will shape how governments worldwide approach transnational crime, posing critical questions about the balance between national security and respect for sovereignty. This event could lead to a paradigm shift in international law enforcement and military engagement strategies, prompting nations to reconsider their approaches to combating organized crime. As countries reassess their policies, it is likely that we will see a renewed focus on multilateral agreements that address the root causes of transnational criminal activities. The implications of this strike may thus reverberate far beyond immediate borders, influencing global security dynamics for years to come. The rise of Tren de Aragua as a significant criminal force is rooted in the socio-economic turmoil of Venezuela, where the group initially formed amid a collapsing economy and widespread poverty. Over the past few years, Tren de Aragua has expanded its operations across borders, engaging in human trafficking, drug smuggling, and violent crime, thereby exacerbating regional instability. The U.S. has increasingly viewed such non-state actors as national security threats, particularly when their activities intertwine with the migration crisis affecting neighboring countries. This situation has led to an influx of migrants seeking refuge from violence and poverty, straining resources in host nations and heightening tensions. Previous strategies focused primarily on arrests and intelligence gathering, but the escalating violence and complexity of these criminal networks have prompted a reevaluation of tactics. The decision to treat these groups as military targets rather than merely criminal organizations reflects a broader shift in U.S. foreign policy. This change is influenced by rising concerns over transnational crime and its direct implications for American security. The historical context reveals a pattern of increasing military engagement in regions that were once regarded as law enforcement domains, raising questions about the balance between military action and international law. The impact of this shift could be profound, potentially leading to increased military presence in Latin America and a more aggressive stance against organized crime. As the U.S. recalibrates its approach, it may face backlash from local populations who could perceive military intervention as an infringement on sovereignty. Looking ahead, it is critical for policymakers to consider the long-term consequences of this strategy, ensuring that efforts to dismantle criminal networks do not undermine regional stability, but rather contribute to a sustainable solution that addresses the underlying socio-economic issues driving crime and migration. The implications of this strike are profound. If confirmed, it signifies a major escalation in U.S. counter-narcotics and anti-gang strategies, moving beyond mere law enforcement to active military engagement. This shift marks a pivotal moment in the U.S.'s approach to combating transnational crime. Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan criminal organization, has become notorious for its involvement in drug trafficking, human smuggling, and organized violence across Latin America. Their activities are not just local issues. They are intricately linked to regional instability and migration crises that affect millions of lives. The group has been implicated in significant violence, and the U.S. has framed their operations as national security threats. The average person should care about this development because it could lead to increased violence and instability in the region, potentially impacting the safety of communities across the Americas. As U.S. military engagement becomes more pronounced, it raises the stakes for local populations, who may find themselves caught in the crossfire. The legal ramifications of this action are also significant, raising questions about U.S. sovereignty and the right to conduct military operations in foreign territories without explicit consent from host nations. Such actions could set a precedent, emboldening other countries to take similar measures against groups they classify as threats, further escalating conflicts and complicating international relations. In the broader context, the strike could lead to a realignment of power among criminal organizations in the region. As Tren de Aragua faces increased pressure, rival gangs may attempt to fill the power vacuum, potentially leading to even more violence and instability. The socio-economic implications are dire. Communities already struggling with poverty and lack of opportunity could see further deterioration in their living conditions. Looking forward, the U.S. must navigate the complex landscape of foreign military engagement carefully. The potential for unintended consequences is high, especially if local populations perceive U.S. actions as an invasion rather than assistance. Balancing the fight against organized crime while respecting national sovereignty will be crucial. As the situation develops, policymakers will need to consider both immediate impacts and long-term strategies to foster stability and security in the region. On June 15, 2026, a U.S. airstrike resulted in the death of a leader of Tren de Aragua, a violent criminal organization originating from Venezuela. The strike occurred around 10:30 a.m. local time, although the exact location remains undisclosed. Tren de Aragua has gained notoriety for its rapid expansion across Latin America, engaging in drug trafficking, extortion, and human trafficking, thus becoming a significant concern for regional security. The U.S. government has characterized this action as a military operation rather than a standard law enforcement action, indicating a strategic shift in addressing transnational criminal organizations. This marks a significant departure from previous methods that primarily relied on arrests and prosecutions, emphasizing a more aggressive stance. The implications of this airstrike extend beyond the immediate elimination of a criminal leader. Tren de Aragua's influence has been felt across multiple countries, destabilizing local governments and contributing to a surge in violence and corruption. The group has established a network that not only threatens economic stability, but also undermines public trust in law enforcement. By taking military action, the U.S. is signaling a readiness to confront these networks head-on, a move that could redefine the nature of international law enforcement and military engagement. The most alarming aspect of this event is the potential precedent it sets for U.S. military involvement in combating organized crime, blurring the lines between law enforcement and military action. This escalation differs from previous events, as it reflects a willingness from Washington to engage directly with criminal networks that threaten national and regional stability. Critics argue that this approach may lead to unintended consequences, including civilian casualties and a backlash against U.S. interventions in Latin America. Supporters, however, contend that decisive action is necessary to curb the growing influence of groups like Tren de Aragua. Looking ahead, the U.S. administration must navigate the delicate balance between military intervention and diplomatic efforts. As organized crime continues to evolve, so too must the strategies employed to combat it. The outcomes of this operation may influence future policies, shaping how the U.S. engages with both allies and adversaries in the region. A comprehensive approach that includes intelligence sharing and regional cooperation may be essential to achieve lasting stability. As we consider these developments, what do you think the long-term implications of this U.S. strike will be? Will other nations follow suit? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for daily deep dives into the world's most significant events.